Hello, everyone. Welcome to Just Between You and Me. I'm Michael.
And I'm Michelle, and today we're talking about mirroring and reflections. And this is going to be a two-part video, so we're going to do the second part on Thursday. But today we're talking about all the similarities between mirroring and reflections.
Indeed. So to begin, some of the similarities I see between mirrors and reflections are, first, how similar they are physically. You look into a mirror, you see your reflection. What we mean by this, you and I specifically, is more so like when you look into a person's eyes, can you see yourself?
Not just physically, but also emotionally and energetically and spiritually.
Like the energy you see on their face, what do they carry on their face that you also carry in yours? What similarities can you see when you experience a person? Not just when you look at them, but when you experience them. What do they show you about yourself? This is a very important concept as it relates to doing one's own inner work, triggers, and so many other things, mirroring and reflections.
Yeah, and I really lean into the concept here that reflections and mirroring are present in all relationships and all connections. And it's really about what we see in the other person that we may see in ourselves. And sometimes these lead to things we like about ourselves, like, oh my gosh, I love that person's power. Well, the only reason you can see their power is because it's a reflection back to you.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's, oh wow, I really don't like the way that person gets angry. And then you're like, oh wait, that's how I get angry. Ooh.
If you can be honest with yourself and see that. Yeah.
So reflections and mirroring can lead us to the positive aspects of ourselves, and it can also lead to the things that maybe we need to work on.
Sure.
Or that we may need to look at.
Yeah.
So it's a really powerful tool in that. In reflections and mirroring can be a really powerful tool for that.
Absolutely. It's really a great tool to support one in doing their own inner work and honoring the gravitations, the people that we gravitate to us and what we see in them that we like and don't like, what we experience that we like and don't like Michelle said. And if you're really doing your work and keeping track with like who your universe is sending you, you're going to have mirrors. You're going to see reflections in other people. You're going to be looking into a mirror often if you choose to. If you do that, that's going to lead you to seeing blessings, beautiful things about yourself. It's also going to lead to seeing triggers, things you don't like about yourself, how they trigger you, maybe how you trigger you. Sometimes their trigger mirrors your trigger. Sometimes your trigger of them reflects to you what you're triggered about in yourself. So these are two very huge concepts because they really tie in so many other words and video topics that we've offered up to this point.
Yeah, it's reflections and mirroring in connection can really lead us to understanding our boundaries. It can lead us to understanding what walls we have up. It can lead us to understanding our triggers. It can certainly lead us into how we communicate, like walls, barriers, triggers, and mirroring are all about how we communicate with each other and what we're receiving back. Right.
All these things that you just said, they all produce what I like to call our filters, which is probably a whole nother video. It's like the filters we speak through. So reflections and mirrors are a part of that. How we show up, how we communicate, how we see and experience ourselves, how we see and experience others. Mirroring and reflections are all up in there.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the really great aspects for me about mirroring reflection is the light that I can see igniting in other people when I stand in my power, when I stand in my fullness, when I stand in my light. I then notice that it gives permission to other people because I'm creating a space for them to see that and them to see that in themselves. And it's fabulous when I think about this because this is actually based in science. So there's a thing in our brains called mirror neurons, and it actually allows us to really see into another person. That's what there's lots of complicated sciencey things around it, but mirror neurons basically allow us to understand and reflect back and forth to each other. And it's really cool stuff. So if you want to learn more about mirror neurons, look them up. We're not a science channel, so we're not going to go into them, but I really love this concept that science is starting to connect dots where, maybe some of us who deal with relationships as a profession, as a interest or passion. are starting to learn that there's some real science, real hard science behind it.
Absolutely. So yeah, if you're interested in tying mirrors and reflections to the scientific world, look up some mirror neurons. And yeah, I think
this pretty much wraps up our similarities.
Yeah, for sure. One other thing I do want to say is that leaning into mirroring and reflections is an opportunity and an invitation to lean into the oneness of humanity, to lean into how we are all similar and how we are all able to be walking mirrors and reflectors for each other.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So this is part one. As we said, mirrors and reflections. We're going to do a 2-part video here. This is part one. Part two, we're going to talk all about the differences we see between reflections and mirroring.
That we see specifically. Yeah.
And how they show up in relationships and why we define them differently.
For sure. So yeah, on that note, thank you all for joining us today on Just Between You and Me. If you liked what you saw, what you heard, if you want to know more, please leave us a comment below. Please like, share, subscribe. And our contact information is in the description for this video down below. So that's where you can find us and reach out to us if you'd like to. Yeah.
And also, we're still working on our Patreon site. It will be launching soon, but we're still in the process. So keep tuned in for more updates on that.
For sure.
And tune in on Thursday for part 2 of Mirroring and Reflections. Yeah.
Yep, and thank you all for joining us today on Just Between You and Me. I'm Michael.
And I'm Michelle. We'll see you next time. Mwah.